and a very warm welcome to Bharata First. You're watching Big Picture with me, Frank Razum Pereira. Well, to celebrate India's fine performance at the Olympics and upcoming Independence Day, we at Bharata First have come up with an exciting offer for the Knowledge Center. Bharata First Knowledge Center is your one-stop destination for your competitive exams preparation. Go to kc.bharatafirst.com for more details. Use the coupon code FREEDOM30 for a great discount. Hundreds are thoroughly enjoying this whole new learning experience. Make sure that you don't miss out. Be a part of this amazing journey today. Please like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and share the content as well. You can subscribe to our newsletter for some incisive information. The Bharata First team runs several quizzes. Please participate in them. If you like our content, do keep it alive by making a small contribution. All this information, along with some must-see recommendations, are in the description of the video. Please go through it. And now, on to our discussion. A Bharatiya Janata Party leader and his wife were killed in a terrorist attack in South Kashmir's Anantnag district on Monday. BJP's Kisan Morcha president of Kulgam, Ghulam Rasool Dar, and his wife died after terrorists fired bullets at the couple in the Lal Chowk area of Anantnag. Dar was also Sarpanch and the party's district president of Anantnag. The couple was rushed to the hospital following the attack, but they succumbed to the injuries. Police blamed the militant group Lashkar-e-Toiba for the killing. In this edition of Big Picture, we will analyze the political killing and security situation in Kashmir. Joining me on the program today are Major General Dhruv C. Katoch, retired Director, India Foundation; RVS Mani, author and internal security expert; and Ilyas Lavai, advocate. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of Big Picture. General, I'd like to start the program with you first. Let's first try and understand, the situation in Jammu and Kashmir after a politician was killed by terrorists. The situation has improved ever since special status was abrogated in Jammu and Kashmir on August 5th, 2019, but now we're getting to see such incidents. Your thoughts on this?
Thank you, Frank. Now, I think any political killing is a dastardly killing and it must be condemned. Obviously, the intention here, when a political person and his wife both have been killed brutally in cold blood, it is totally condemnable. But now let us analyze why is it being done, and does it have any relation to the time in which we are talking now? So there are two things to it. One is the political process is actually going strong now, especially at the grassroots level. We've had election at the panchayat levels and above. The only thing which is left now is the assembly elections. And once the political process gets strengthened, I have noticed in all my service, when political penetration takes place, insurgencies and terrorism dies down. So there is a desire on the part of these terrorist groups to ensure that the stabilization per se does not come. This is one. The other aspect is, you see, we are coming very close to 15th August. 5th August, as you have already stated, the special status was abrogated 2 years ago. So we are in that month in which this special status was abrogated, and it is also 15th August which is coming here. Now, during this time, as it is, there is always an increase, I will say, of such incidences. Now, what we've got to see is it has been a very soft killing, right? This the officer concerned, he had a security guard, but you see, once you're any political person, he lives in a house, his position is known. It is very, very difficult to provide that 24-hour security which is foolproof. So I presume that more such killings will take place, but it really reflects a desperation on the part of the terrorist groups and on the sponsors across the border. What they are trying to do is trying to keep the issue alive, which is dying every single day. While it is a sad thing which has happened, I think we need to take cognizance of the fact that we should be prepared for more such incidences taking place over the next 2 to 3 months. But the more important issue is now the perpetrators who have done this. I think we need to take very, very focused attention and get them. That is the deterrent message which needs to get across. Otherwise, stability is returning to the valley as per all the indicators which I have seen so far, Frank.
All right. Ilyas, I'll just come to you on that about how stability has returned to Kashmir or not in just a bit. But before that, let me get in a comment from Mr. Mani as well. So Mr. Mani, there are several reports which have suggested that the gentleman who was killed and his wife were actually not staying in their official residence which was earmarked for them, but were staying outside somewhere else. So would you consider that to be a security breach, and should that not have happened?
See, security is provided where the people are. It is securing the individual, the protectee, not the protectee's home. Whether it is his official home or it is his personal or whatever choice of it, wherever he is, the security is supposed to be provided there to the protectee. So that is the basic theme of providing the security, VIP, and because the homes and all come under a different this thing, that's all vital installation. That's a totally different paradigm there. So it cannot be deemed to a security lapse per se. And I don't know how it happened, but as General Katoj pointed out, the democratic process and the militancy are sharing a room. The more number of democratic supporters come in, the militants get pushed out. You can conceive like that. It is as simple. I am trying to put it in a very simpler, very rustic sense. So one they see it is simply a jostling for space, and now they are reduced to a much more lower numbers. They are simply spreading their arms and jostling for space to take space. Because beyond a certain level, they are reaching the level of criticality beyond which they will become irrelevant. Their existence is at stake. DDC elections went on peacefully. Panchayat elections has gone on peacefully, and here also the target is local self-government, a representative of the local self-government. That means that's a terse message. Like if you join the political process, it is a terse message to all the people, all the stakeholders, that if you join the political process of the government of India, this could be possibly your fate. So it is not just that, it's possibly a political message has gone out from the handlers, whether within or outside the borders. And indeed, exemplary action, they should be located, the killers be located, and exemplary action, they should be given exemplary punishment. Notwithstanding that, that is bringing the people to justice. But notwithstanding that, it is a message to the people on the ground, grassroots, that if you join any political process of the government of India, then this could be possibly your fate, and that message should be, I mean, not just condemned, that should be overcome. These type of activities can be preempted. Now we are seeing the trend. Maybe indeed it could be possible few more targets they may attempt, but now that we are there, we should secure it more deep rooted ways, and more strongly we should secure the entire process, so that the democratic process is a vital point in this development, because development is happening on the ground at a very rapid pace, but we should not allow the democratic process to sag, to be affected by virtue of these type of challenges. That challenges has to be overcome. That is what is my saying, Frank.
Absolutely. All right. So, Ilyas Lavai, coming to you now, let's talk about how things have changed. Both the panelists talking about there is stability, things have improved for the better. Is that how you see it? And, would you look at this incident as a one-off incident, or would you say that things are changing now in Kashmir?
Thank you, Frank. The incident that has prompted us all together to come here and discuss this issue. Basically, the cold-blooded murder of that Sarpanch and his wife, the duo belong to my constituency. They belong to my district, just 4 or 5 kilometers away from it. Every Kashmiri, for that matter, has unequivocally condemned the incident. And it's not today. It's like since the militancy has been here, every Kashmiri has been condemning such dastardly and brutal attacks. Nowadays, like you must have seen in papers and on TV channels that every Kashmiri comes up against all this militancy and all. But one thing that needs to be introspected is basically all these things have been happening here since the insurgency has started in Kashmir, since 90s, when the militancy cropped up basically in Kashmir. All these things, how we have witnessed all these incidents. And on the 5th of August, when this special status and 370 and 35A articles were abrogated, we were made to believe that all these things are not going to happen now. We were made to believe that these two articles or this special status that we enjoyed so far, these were coming in a way to democracy and to the development. But I'm afraid to say that not the D of the development or not the D of democracy has started here in Kashmir since abrogation of 370. I'm with Major General Katoch, wherein he said that this is the time when all these incidents are believed to happen, and when all these incidents are one can easily contemplate that all these incidents might happen. But we have been witnessing all these incidents day in and day out now. Post abrogation of 370, nothing has happened on ground. You see, majority of all these political killings have been like the ones who have been associated with BJP. BJP is nowadays the ruling government and the ones who are in the power. If they cannot protect their own workers, this is the sense, this is the feeling here in Kashmir at grassroots, that if they cannot protect their own workers, like there are a handful of people in Kashmir, in like recently concluded DDC elections, not a single seat has been won by the DDC here, barring a single seat in Srinagar that has been won by but that is because of those, the hard reality is they have won it because of the boycott and all. A handful of people came out, casted their vote in support of BJP candidate. Nevertheless, that does not matter. Even a single vote can make you win or lose. But the fact of the matter is that on ground, a common Kashmiri, if you ask this question to a common Kashmiri, what has happened post abrogation of 370, nothing materializes or nothing concrete comes up. There has been recent interview of former Chief Minister Umar Abdullah. He counted you on fingers what the developments have been in the past government, and he dared the anchor there that you just count me one development that has started here in Jammu and Kashmir post abrogation. And this is the reality that people of Jammu and Kashmir, particularly Kashmir, they know since 15th August, Independence Day is coming up. Like, we expect the government of India to take sincere steps with regard to the government of India at that point of time. They promised us that Kashmir will be free of militancy. Nothing happened. They promised us development. Nothing of that sort happened. So coming to your question, what has happened post abrogation of 370? I say it's nil at the bottom. Nothing concrete happened.
Okay, points taken. Let me take the points that you're making forward then. So, General, is there something that's happening in Kashmir where the terrorists and the militant groups want to drive fear into the hearts of the people of Kashmir by doing or committing such dastardly acts, and thereby, disheartening other political parties too?
You see, that is, Frank, this is actually the very basic methodology of terrorism. When we have a population of, say, 100 people, you just require about 3 to 5 people actually to carry on activities of this nature, and the rest 95 will follow like sheep. So that is the standard ploy. You see, the use of muscle power and the use of force, because everybody doesn't have a gun there. It's not like the United States where everybody can keep a gun. So here, when we are looking at a time when there were about 1,000 to 2,000 terrorists operating in the valley itself, now that number has come down dramatically. You see, I don't agree with Mr. Ilyas. He's got a point, and I'm not going to question that. He's living there, so he's got his views. But I'm dealing simply as a statistician. You see, I analyze data and I analyze it on a weekly basis. Now, when I've analyzed this data, one, the number of incidences have come down, period. There is absolutely no doubts about it. The killings per se, when we analyze the period 2017, 2019, the 2-year period from 2017 to 2019, and you take the 2-year period 2019 to 2021, I think that should be a very fair comparison. When you take that comparison, oh, there is a dramatic drop in every single aspect of terrorism. Now, I remember, Frank, I think in your show about a year back, or I think even 2 years back, I had made it very categorical. The process has started. It is not completed. I am giving this, for to say that we can eliminate terrorism completely may not really be possible in the present environment simply because Pakistani support is still forthcoming. It is not possible, humanly possible. I've been on the border, I've spent all my life there. It is not humanly possible to seal every square inch. So long as something is not really done to drastically sort of punish the people across the border and make it count, the deterrence has to be across. It's not going to work fully. But on the second hand, on the second point, you see when more and more people from within the valley are resisting terrorism, the person doesn't have any space to stay. I've seen it happening in Punjab. I've seen that entire scenario as to how it developed. It is going to come in Kashmir too. I do not predict terrorism to last for more than 6 months to 1.5 years from now, right? I have already made this very clear in many public fora, the end of 2021 or the end of 2022, hopefully earlier. But it's over. This game plan is over because basically 370 was a ploy which was being used by the Pakistanis along with the Hurriyat in India. And because of those linkages, and Hurriyat had linkages with terrorist groups, the government in power, whether it was the PDP or it was the party of the Abdullahs, you see, they would bow down to the Hurriyat. Let's face it, right? Bashir Assad in his book, The K File, has very clearly said, if you wanted a job in Kashmir, you had to get a letter from the Hurriyat, right? So I mean, all these things are recorded. Now, that is over. Right, Pakistani influence is decreasing day by day. The Hurriyat is practically a dead duck now. We've got to. I'm a very firm believer in two issues if you want to get normalcy. One, get the political process going. It is very important. And number two, please get the judiciary working. You see, if I, as an army person, if I'm operating there, you kill 10 or 20 or 200 or 1,000 terrorists, it does not have that deterrence. The deterrence comes from a judgment given by a judge to say, you chaps have done this and you will go to jail. Now, that is the deterrence. I haven't seen that happen in Kashmir yet. I have been angling for special courts. Go for special courts and you will find a complete difference which is coming out. Development, I totally disagree with Mr. Elias. I have seen what is happening there. I mean, as a witness on the ground, I have seen what is happening there. I've spoken to a very large number of people. A great deal has happened. But the Kashmir problem has never been about development. The whole point is it has never been about development. So I don't think development is the issue either way, Frank.
Okay, points taken. Mr. Mani, let me come across to you now. Let's talk about the issue of this political killing as such. Targeting specifically BJP politicians is a message being sent out to everybody else that if you go with the BJP, this is what your fate is going to be like.
Right. That I had already said in my initial remarks, that this is not just a thing, this is also a message to the people that join the democratic process, especially on the back of BJP, then this could be your possible fate. That is a very clear-cut message. And taking from where General Kachot said, 2 points I wanted to simply emphasize upon. One is the development has to happen through the civil surveys, the huge civil surveys of the Kashmir. The government of India can make allocations, they can make plans, everything, but it has to be ultimately done through the civil servants. There were, before the 370 or before the article, if you go to the annual plan presentation of the Farooq Abdullah government or the Mehbooba Mufti government, the annual plan presented, which is a matter of record, before the planning commission every year, 90% of the focus was in Kashmir, 5% was in Jammu, and rest was in Ladakh and other areas. This is a matter of record. Now those type of distortions have quietly been removed in the development process. That is number one. So not necessarily the Kashmir Valley may see the overwhelming development, but it is much more evenly distributed, and that could be one of the grounds. Number two, development has to be, schemes have to be implemented by the civil servants. The civil servant, lot of them, as General Katoch pointed out, they have to take letters from Hurriyat, they have to take letters from Masood Azhar or whatever, whomsoever it is, to get a job in the employment in the Kashmir Secretariat or Kashmir government. But now that has changed. Not only that has changed, the government of India is, as a UT, is identifying those who had their loyalties somewhere else than the India, and they are being weeded out from the public administration. So, and that positions have also been to be refilled. This process also is curbing the development process to some extent because of the manpower, because almost 30 to 40% of the people have been identified. I don't know how much of them will go. And that type of a third part of it is before 370 and 35A, I have been a abrogation during the period up to 2014. I have myself handled Kashmir desk. I have found that every time there used to be some sort of a disturbance, the government will announce a rehabilitation package, and those packages used to be controlled more by the contractors of those places than the civil servants. And that contractor lobby is also missing from the scene, or they have been made to miss from the scene. And to that extent, the non-cooperation, because ultimately they are also important stakeholders in delivering, there are a lot of non-cooperation, resistance by the contractor. This is a ground reality. And so that is also one of the things, retarding the pace of development which is desired. But indeed, evenly developed state with maybe the Jammu getting a little better share than what it was getting. And also, so that is the reason the developments as per se in valley may not be visible to the naked eye. But this is a fact. These are all three very important points. Thank you, Frank.
Absolutely. All right. So, Ilyas, coming back to you now, from a security standpoint of view, what else needs to be done, do you think? Because, you mentioned about how Kashmiris do not want to side with the militants. They have openly rejected the militants. So, from a security standpoint, as for someone who's living there and seeing this on a day-to-day basis, what more do you need to see, or what more would you like to see?
Frank, first before coming to your point, I would like to set the record straight. Like as General Katoch has said, there has been development has never been an issue with respect to the Kashmir. As far as I remember, and I hope that you also remember what Honorable Home Minister of India has on the floor of the House on 5th of August said when this bill for abrogation of 370 was passed. He said that Kashmir issue has been there because there has been no development. Kashmir issue has been there for all the reasons he quoted was missing development. He said that now after 370 abrogation, what we will give to the Kashmir is we will give a secure and developed Kashmir. You'll see such projects coming up in Kashmir that are not existing anywhere in India, that have never been there in Kashmir. This was one of the major focuses that the Honorable Home Minister in the floor of the House said on 5th of August, as far as I remember. I don't know whether you remember it or not, but development has always been an issue with respect to the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So coming to your point, what could be done? I simply believe that security works at the behest of the government, and government has to today or tomorrow or day after, it will have to build confidence. It will have to take confidence building measures wherein the aspirations and needs of the youth of Kashmir will be taken into consideration. The army has been doing nowadays a commendable job by organizing, penetrating deep into the society by organizing various functions under Sadbhavana, cricket tournaments are being organized, extracurricular activities, those competitions are being organized at the army level, which ideally army nowhere does anywhere in India. These are some of the steps, confidence building measures. I believe this is the policy of the government. Some of the steps that will basically encourage the people towards security apparatus of India. And if all these things continue, I'll give a just brief example as to what happened in last year. An incident happened in Shopian wherein a colonel was held responsible for some fake encounter. So that has led to the confidence building measure as to the change in the narrative of the security apparatus with vis-a-vis the people of Jammu and Kashmir. The people have been starting believing as to the government is not going to spare even an army official if he commits any wrong. Such things have never happened before. But it must not stop there only. There are various other measures by way of which the government can start building confidence within the youth of the Jammu and Kashmir. So all these things are to be taken into consideration. The aspirations of the people, majorly the development is lacking here. I will focus mainly on that. The development with respect to the sports area, with respect to the educational institutions, all these things are missing. There has been 2 long years and more than, like, for the rest of India, there has been lockdown by way of corona only, but here has been a lockdown a year before that as well. Before abrogation of 370, there were tumultuous situations in Kashmir which could not let the educational institutions to work, the hospitals even to work. So all these things we have suffered a lot. What I want through your medium to convey to the government of India is, you just take some concrete steps. People of Jammu and Kashmir, especially the youth of Kashmir, is willing to accept your sincere efforts, but it should not be what has happened in the past 70 years. Only saying things will not suffice them. The people who have been joining militancy, they are majority of those people who are joining militancy nowadays are high tech. They are either B.Tech or M.Tech students. Some are pursuing even their MBBS courses. Some even pursuing their post graduation. It's a sad state of affairs that not only the illiterate people are joining the militancy, but the people who are very educated and literate people, they are joining the militancy. This is the thing that government of India needs to look on. It's not that what Abdullahs have done, what Muftis have done, and we'll start blame gaming, and then all these BJP workers, like, they will be made the scapegoats, whether by government of India or by Pakistan. All these ulterior motives. Pakistan comes up every day. But I as a common Kashmiri, I say that if government of India makes tomorrow any sincere effort, the people of Kashmir are ready and willingly will accept it. You show me a single incident where the government of India has come up with a concrete or with a sincere effort with respect to catering the aspirations of youth, and we have rejected it. You won't find any single incident in the history that wherein the people of Kashmir have rejected any sincere effort of government. But as on date, those sincere efforts are lacking.
Okay, points taken. Time to get quick closing comments from all my panelists. Yes, Mr. Mani, I saw you putting up your hand. Go ahead.
See, few things on the development front. A few core areas where some investments have taken place. Kashmir has a very high potential for hand-tufted carpets. They have a Indian Institute of Carpet Technology, which is not only aiding, that it's conducting programs, giving them soft areas like marketing and other so many things so that they are made much more capable to harness, not only harness, they develop and including hand holding of the carpet weavers, number one. Kashmir silk had been forgotten for the last 30 years. The silk industry is being revived again by these two are there because I have been a deputy financial advisor in the Ministry of Textiles. I am very much aware of this. Railways have gone into Kashmir. So, and similar techniques like the sports ministry is doing certain initiatives in Kashmir. So each ministry has a scheme under which lot of development initiatives are being taken. For example, the IICT and the silk revival, Kashmir silk is again going to be a geographical indication in a few months from now. These type of developments have already taken places, and they are trying to counsel, take the people into the IICT is also doing some excellent work. So these are all matters of record with the government policy toward development of Kashmir. Thank you, Frank.
All right. Yes, General, from a security standpoint, what is the best way forward?
I have to speak on development, just one sentence.
Okay,
you see,
please.
The conflict in Kashmir was never about development. Right, there was never been a shortage of fund. I've spent half my life there. My father served there, right? So I mean, I know that place backwards. The conflict was never about development. It was always about ideology, and that ideology was exported from abroad. you can actually keep using the words development nahi hai, wo nahi hai, but actually the ground situation is different. There were different causes, and unless we address those causes, it's not going to work. So now, if you want to sort this out, and I made the statement very, very clearly since 80s, I've been talking about this. One, please ensure that the education syllabus is vetted right from primary school up till whichever class they go. This is the most important point. The radicalization takes place there. And some of the stuff which I have personally seen as a commanding officer in the textbooks which are being taught is horrible. Number two, what has happened is, amongst the Muslims of Kashmir, I'm very sorry to say, they've stopped speaking Kashmiri. They have started speaking Urdu. They've forgotten their own language. And then you talk of Kashmiriyat. That is the extent to which in Kashmir radicalization has crept in. We have to stop that. Number three, the madrasas which were there, in which the Maulvi comes from Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. Please, I would request the Kashmiris, get back your own Maulvis. They are excellent people. We don't want these radicalized elements coming from the rest of India to disrupt which is one of the most beautiful countries in the world. Number four, the administration needs to be revamped. The amount, the way the administration has been compromised. Somebody had told me how many people you have to remove. I said practically all, but we can't remove all. So let us remove at least the key people. A deterrent has to go. As far as the military is concerned, they will do their job. They'll do an excellent job. So I've got no concerns about controlling the terrorism per se. On the judicial front, I think we need special courts. And unless you see, my whole emphasis is on justice. Justice must be delivered quickly. Otherwise, there is no deterrent. And right. it not just applies to Kashmir. I've been stating this applies to the whole of India. We cannot have justice being delivered after 20 to 30 years. It is ineffective. In Kashmir, it is vital for us. Please, the judicial standards, they must be revisited, and we must do that as quickly as possible. Frank.
Absolutely. All right, and Ilyas Lawai, quick closing comment from you with the best way forward. Let's try and keep it to the security apparatus.
Frank, I would like to reverberate whatever I have said. Like, simple request with the government of India is make sincere efforts with respect to the upliftment and catering to the aspirations of the youth of Kashmir. We are ready to welcome and we are ready to support. We are ready to be with you there.
Okay, wonderful. Good note to wind up the discussion on. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so very much.
Ilyas.
Well, what's coming out of this discussion is that the timing of the political killing is of essence, coming just after August 5th, the day when special status of Jammu and Kashmir was revoked, and a few days before Independence Day. The killing of a BJP leader in particular is a political message that is being sent out by the terrorists to others who may want to join the BJP. Democratic process in Kashmir is vital and must be protected by all means. There should be further development in the region, especially through civil servants. The aspirations of the youth of a better life should be the focus of the government. The youth of Kashmir are with India. All they are looking for is better opportunities. Well then, before I go, let me once again inform you about Bharata First Knowledge Center. To celebrate India's fine performance at the Olympics and Independence Day, we at Bharata First have come up with an exciting offer for the Knowledge Center. The Bharata First Knowledge Center is your one-stop destination for your competitive exams preparation. Go to kc.bharatafirst.com for more details. Use the coupon code FREEDOM30 for a great discount. Hundreds are thoroughly enjoying this whole new learning experience. Make sure that you don't miss out. Be a part of this amazing journey today. Also, please like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and share the content. You can subscribe to our newsletter to get some incisive information. The Bharata First team runs several quizzes. Please participate in them. If you like our content, do keep it alive by making a small contribution. All this information, along with some must-see recommendations, are in the description of the video. Please go through it. That's it from me. See you again next time.